So we wanted to talk about the state of Agile in 2025.
We did, yes. Preferably without a mouthful of Jaffa Cake, though.
But Jaffa Cakes are the best.
Yeah, we're at the end of a long day of filming, so the sugar and caffeine is needed. So, why do we want to talk about this topic? So why don't you give us a little bit of insight into why we think this is a topic that needs discussing?
Yeah, so we've been Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, consultants for over a decade now. We started out at Vodafone at a time when Agile was very popular.
Yep.
It was a big thing. Companies invested in it. It was trendy.
Yep.
The last few years, I don't know, there's been a bit of I think it's not died, but
No.
it's definitely become less popular. But what I think is interesting is that Agile as a method to get stuff done is almost like the norm now, or people still want to do it. You know, people still want to be Agile, whatever that means. We can talk about that. But there's almost been this shift. Agile is not so much a trendy word.
No.
It's not so much something that companies want to invest in the same way. You know, Agile transformation for the sake of Agile transformation is not really a very popular way to spend your money at the moment. But I wanted to talk about whether, like, what is the state of Agile in 2025?
Yeah.
Is it dead? Is it not dead?
Yeah.
What does it mean to use it well in 2025? You've probably got some questions. I got some questions, but I'm going to fire mine at you first.
Oh no.
So what's the biggest lie that we still tell ourselves about Agile in 2025?
The biggest lie? I don't know. I think the way I think about Agile now is that, so it's almost like Agile has gone underground. So I think potentially the lie is that organizations, people are saying that Agile is dead. It's no longer a thing. The reality is that's a lie. It's still there. If you stop thinking about Agile as a framework and start thinking about the principles that are around it, they're still relevant.
Yeah.
It's just a method to achieve the goals which are still there.
Yeah.
You know, leadership no longer talk about, we want to be Agile, we want to work in Scrum, we want to work in sprints. They want to get business value out there quicker. Speed to market's important. Efficiency is important. The way we achieve those things is still the same. We still have to work collaborative. We still have to have cross-functionality. We still need to test and learn. We still need continuous improvement. That is what Agile actually is. So for me, I think the lie that people talk about is that Agile isn't actually dead at all.
Yeah.
Far from it. It's just hidden. And I think for me, it's just underground.
Yeah. I like that. That's nice. I think there's a shift in the importance in the roles. I think we used to place a lot of importance on Scrum Masters, Agile coaches.
Yeah.
And I think now all the importance is on product owners and product ownership. So that's still a role that people want to invest in. Companies recognize the importance of. Product owners still want coaching. People still pay for coaching of product owners, although they probably don't call it Agile coaching.
No.
But the product owner is like, that's the mini CEO of that product or service line.
Yeah.
And so
here's a question then for you on roles. Why do you, because we have seen a shift. There's a lot of Scrum Master and Agile coaches that maybe have been made redundant. There's a lot less demand for it in market. Why do you think that is? I deliberately timed that question to ask you just as you put that Jaffa Cake.
You give me your opinion while I finish this Jaffa Cake.
Okay. So for me, I think there's a bit of a divide. And we had quite an interesting discussion, and there was quite an interesting podcast that we put out there, which caused quite a bit of controversy when we talked about the difference of Scrum Master and Agile coach. And I think what we saw was there was two groups of people. There were people who were coaches and Scrum Masters who understood the need to be adaptable and focus less on those frameworks as a descriptive you must do and more on what does this organization and leaders need of me.
Yeah.
And then you had the divide of the people who saw the Scrum Guide as we have to follow it word for word.
Yeah.
And I think the decline is because where leaders have moved away from the Agile terminology, have moved away from the need for Agile, the actual things an Agile coach could produce are still really valuable. And that's why you say, maybe we don't call it Agile coaching anymore. So interestingly, I caught up with some of the original Scrum Masters that I worked with at Vodafone a number of years ago. And I don't think any of us are really in Scrum Master or Agile coach roles anymore. There's people in service delivery, we're in consultancy, there's people working in kind of AI and product development and digital transformation. We all use those skills that we use now when we were Agile coaches, but we didn't specialize in being Agile coaches that focused on frameworks. And we could show the value in so much more than just coaching. And for me, that's the difference. That's why I think there's been a decline, because too many people have focused on Scrum Masters and Agile coaches just following a framework.
Yeah. I remember, I have such a vivid memory of a meeting years ago where I was in as one of the kind of Agile coaches, load of senior leaders. There was a bit of a reshuffle in some of the teams. And I remember one of the external contract Agile coaches kind of halfway through just paused one of the senior leadership team and kind of said, hey, you're conflating two different scaled frameworks. Are you doing SAFe or are you doing scaled Agile? And I remember this senior leader, I won't name them, but they're a great leader, really enjoyed working with them, pretty direct. And he literally just said, like, why are you wasting time trying to pin me down to some kind of framework? It doesn't matter, call it whatever you want. But we had a scaled framework, we had a model, we're iterating it based on what we learn and what we need to get done. You call it whatever you want, we don't care, but we're doing it, we're moving forward, we're going to see if it works, and we'll probably iterate it again. And I think that, in my mind, really early on summarized the kind of the friction that we've seen. And so any Agile practitioners that haven't been able to adapt that level of directness, that level of outcome centricity, that level of how do you engage responses to focus on their priorities, not necessarily your agenda, your method. A lot of those practitioners have probably struggled or have probably had to, move away from that space. But 100%. Practitioners that understood that, their roles may have evolved. Maybe they've stayed in the Agile space. Maybe they've gone into a different space. But the skills that you take across are super useful.
Absolutely. And I think that's really interesting. Leaders don't care how you get there. They just want you to get there. And I think all the conversation that I've had over the years with different teams, different leaders, has always been about the goal was never to be Agile. And the goal never should be to be Agile. The goal is to use agility and the Agile frameworks to achieve whatever it is you're setting out to, whether that be we need more innovation within our teams, we need more cross collaboration, we need to get to speed to market, like whatever that is, what is the goal you're trying to achieve? Agile is just a framework to help you get there. And the concepts are still the same. They are still there and they are still needed.
You know what? There's probably a lot of money to be made from taking a lot of the Agile methods and principles, cross-functional teams, short frequency delivery, just calling it something different.
100%.
And creating the next framework, which is just the same as the old one, but just with new wording that focuses more on the business value.
Create a new buzzword. For me, and this could, come back to bite me, but for me, it's common sense. Like, think about Agile and think about some of the concepts. Iterative development. If we communicate frequently, things are easier. Things get delivered faster because we get earlier feedback. That's common sense. If we put all the people in a room together, working in a team with a different set of skills to deliver this product, it's going to get there faster. We don't have to wait and have the delays to hand off. That's common sense. Like, it's not rocket science. And I think that we just historically have been caught in the societal norm of breaking organizations down into siloed functions, when the reality is we live in a world where those functions need to collaborate.
We had a client recently where, as a big part of this project, this program, was that people would come into the office. So Tuesday through Thursday, let's get around the desk. It's a bit uncomfortable for some people. I think after COVID, everyone changed their life to adjust for remote working. I'm going to race you to the end of these Jaffa Cakes.
See who can finish first. I did think that. I thought you'd got rid of it.
I've got one left. I'm waiting for a moment.
Right, I'm going straight in.
So everyone adjusted their lives. Everyone changed their schedule. And I get that. And we all did the same. We completely changed our lives. I think the sun is past noon on that, and that people recognize that working from home full time is no good. It's not helpful, particularly for younger people that want to get in, get experience, mingle, socialize. Even for old people that want to kind of just stay at home and have an easy life, it's not great for you as a person. There's something about getting up and getting out into the world, going interacting with real people that is incredibly valuable. I think the balance to be struck will be, how do we maintain some good flexibility and not spend ridiculous hours commuting and stuff just to go and sit on calls, with actually meaningful social interaction. But anyway, with this client, we were like, right, and they drove it. They said, let's get into the office, let's get people in, let's create a vibe, let's create. And it was so good. I was reminded of like that real buzz from, early days where we were years ago, where you had, whole teams kind of crowded around the desk, brainstorming, working, gathering around a laptop, you remember physical scrum boards, physical Kanban boards?
Yeah, you spend half your day moving Post-it notes from one to the next and cleaning
magnetic, cleaning magnetic stickies every sprint, and that level of interaction. And it literally means that if you need to get something done, you're not sending someone a message on Teams and waiting 2 hours for them to reply, or booking in a meeting. You're just shouting across the desk and saying, "Hey, I need some help. Can you help me with this?" And with this client, the difference was so dramatic. And it wasn't even just for the team that were working together. It was for other people in the organization or other people in the office that would walk by. They would see and sense that sense of energy and excitement and purpose. And they would want to come over and say hello. So you got this byproduct of comms byproduct, where people would start to see what's happening. They'd start to talk about it. They'd come over and ask what's going on. You'd strike up conversations just because you had that presence. Which, if you try and do that fully remote, you have to make a real effort to go and communicate, publicize what you're doing, what you're working on. The comms plan becomes hard work. And people don't need another digital notification pinging off saying, check out our latest project, come and see what we've done.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's definitely something, there's loads of businesses now that are kind of 5 days back in the office. And so I think that, again, you were saying that Agile is still here just under the radar. You said
underground. It's gone underground.
Yeah. But that Agile principle, one of the 12 principles of, work together in person, I've probably butchered that. But
you have,
yeah. Work together face to face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. Yeah. We should probably know this. But
we should, yeah. It's been a while.
I think that's kind of back as almost common sense. Hey, if you want a cross-functional team of experts to solve a complex problem really quickly, don't have them talking on screens at a distance. Get them around a table, get them into a physical space together, and get them, working on that tangibly together in person.
I have quite a different take on this to you.
Oh, go on. I'm going to eat my Jaffa cake.
You beat me. I'll beat you. I'm done. So for me, I absolutely see the value of the in-person stuff. I think what I see organisations still getting wrong is where they're mandating a need to be in the office when it isn't providing value. So you see people go into the office and then spend all day on Teams calls because the other people are still at home. I don't think we have the balance yet of being in the office for the valuable workshops, in-person communication, the collaboration stuff. What I see happening is people go into the office because they've been told to, when it suits them based on their life, but the rest of their team aren't there. And I think there's a really fine line, because the challenge you've got is organisations who are mandating 5 days, 4 days in the office. There's a lot of people now who go, I don't want that, and they'll leave. And then there's other organisations who are really sticking to we're fully remote. In fact, you can so much so that you can work from anywhere around the world as long as you still deliver your role.
Yeah.
And I think that the critical thing, and both of those organisations can be a success, right? Whether you're fully remote or fully in person. The biggest thing is the culture created around it. So if you take the contrast of you're fully remote, those leaders are really putting trust in their people and the autonomy in their people to deliver what needs to be delivered. Whereas the organisations who are saying fully in person, that's really going back to that cross-team collaboration, everyone together in the engagement piece. I think leaders have to take a stance about what they're going after before they decide where people want to work from.
Yeah.
I think it can be done with both, but I think the problem is mandating in-office stuff only works if you're doing it for the right reason. If you're trying to do it to create a certain atmosphere, like you're saying, because you want this, then it has to be done in the right way, where we're doing it because it brings value, not just because you want people in the office.
Yeah.
If it's just because your office costs you an absolute fortune because you spent a ton of money on it to make it all look pretty, and the only thing you're offering your people to make it better is some pizza on a Thursday and a couple of beers, that's not going to outweigh the impact of people still going in to waste time on calls.
Yeah.
Because then you get the things like the travel comes into it. People get burnout. People aren't managing other things in their life. Like, people want balance. I'm okay with going in when I see the value in it. I get frustrated going into an office when I sit there and my whole team are on calls all day.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the same. Like, it feels pointless to me. So it's making the most of going into the office in the right way. That for me is critical. And I actually don't think that's even relevant to Agile. I think it's so much more than that. I think that's a bigger, wider issue that we probably are not got enough time to dig into.
What about the Scrum Master role?
Yeah, good question.
Is the Scrum Master role still valid in 2025?
There's value in that, in the what the Scrum Master did. I don't know whether we call it a Scrum Master anymore, and I think that's the problem. This is like people have kind of got like, it's a buzzword. Scrum Master is a buzzword, and I think there was too many Scrum Masters who maybe didn't or couldn't articulate the value they were bringing, and therefore they've ended up being made redundant. We've removed Scrum Master roles, or they end up being a Scrum Master for 16 teams, and the reality is you cannot Scrum Master for 16 teams.
Yeah.
Or the other thing we see is people wearing the Scrum Master hat, but not being experts in the role. Is there value in having someone facilitate specific meetings? Absolutely. In anything, not just Scrum. Is there value in having someone that helps unblock challenges teams face to delivery? Absolutely. Is there value in having somebody who oversees delivery cycles, setting those clear sprint goals and things like that? Yeah, absolutely. Can someone do it within the team? Yeah. Would they do it as well as someone who's trained as a Scrum Master? Maybe not as much.
Yeah.
So yes, I think there's value in it. And yes, I think they're needed in some scenarios. I think the biggest challenge that people have is they struggle to articulate the value they bring.
Yeah. There's I have a couple of thoughts. I think a lot of Scrum Masters are given a hospital pass. They're given a team that is hardly committed, maybe not clear goals. Maybe they've got a product owner who's actually just a project manager. They've just been rebranded. Yeah. You know, so I think there's the setup, which is really hard to deal with if you haven't, because then you're trying to coach and facilitate for a team that aren't really at the races. There's the other part. I think Scrum Masters, the reason they kind of lost their value is that they were so focused on the process and not on outcomes. And if this is the problem with just following the Scrum Guide, and the Scrum Guide is like, Scrum Master is the kind of the facilitator, the coach, the Agile kind of referee, if you like, and I think those things are all good, but then when times get tough, and execs are looking in and saying who's performing, who's actually adding value to the business, who's not, where can we make hard decisions, then it's those kind of roles where it's like, unless you can pinpoint the value straight away, then you're gone. So the Scrum Masters that do well, or that either still have a role or the organization still values the role, they're able to really demonstrate the value they're doing, which means I can act as a product owner if my product owner isn't around. I can prioritize, I can make decisions about the product. I know the product well. A lot of Scrum Masters, they're just not interested in knowing the product. I think we've all been there. Like you get in there and you're like, I've got to make a decision. Am I going to really get into the nuts and bolts of this team and learn the product or the service? Yeah. Or am I just going to facilitate? And actually, if you just facilitate, you really, you struggle to be deep into the team. And so it's like, can you step in and do the product owner role, or can you step in and lead the team in the absence of a product owner? Do you understand it? Are you able to articulate to sponsors and leaders the value that the team are creating? Can you help with the communication around that? Can you provide some leadership to the team? Like, do the team look to you for decisions? Do they look to you for guidance? Do they look to you as a leader? Now if you just kind of, you float in and out and you set up some meetings and you just, you facilitate a retrospective and you kind of administrate the Jira board, there's nothing really there for people to latch onto in terms of like real leadership, real value at at any kind of significant level. So there's definitely like a shift. And the reality is that Scrum Masters that can do all the good stuff that I've just mentioned, they kind of then get snapped up for like a product owner role, or they get snapped up for another role, which has a more obvious link to business outcomes.
Yeah.
So I think the Scrum Master role is still really valuable, but I think it's a lot, unfortunately, it's a bit more than a lot of traditional Agile practitioners might want to admit. Because if you just, like I said, if you just follow the Scrum Guide for the if you just follow the Scrum Guide for the Scrum Master role, it doesn't quite go deep enough, I don't think, to warrant being, sticking around in a tough situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some stuff that you've got to be able to do around that, which I just mentioned, which I think warrants you sticking around, because the bottom line is if your CEO wanders over, right, what are you guys achieving? Who's doing what? Who's adding value? If you can't articulate that, if you've got to be able to articulate that. If you can't, you're probably going to be gone.
Yeah. So because we talked a little bit then about transferable skills. So as you said, like there's a lot of transferable skills, and people in Scrum Master roles might be taken into other roles in the business.
Yeah.
I think we often see Scrum Masters ending up in delivery type roles. Project manager, people used to deem it quite similar to a project manager, even though there was different. Agile delivery manager, there's lots of those around. So if there was Scrum Masters, Agile coaches listening now who are struggling with the industry, struggling with the opportunities right now, what advice would you give for what they needed to do?
So you can't take a role that isn't there, I think, is the first thing. So if you're like, I'm a Scrum Master, I'm only going to look for Scrum Master roles, and there aren't any, then there's nothing you can do about that. So you're going to have to look at what's the closest role where you can take your transferable skills and move across. And that might be a great opportunity to go a bit broader in your skill set, and it might give you an opportunity to own some business outcomes that perhaps as a Scrum Master you didn't necessarily own. A lot of Scrum Masters, maybe they're responsible for some transformation type metrics. Maybe they're responsible for some Agile metrics, like cycle time, percentage completed versus planned. Maybe they're responsible for some kind of team coaching. Not really like business metrics that executives will care about. A transferring role to something other than a Scrum Master role gives you an opportunity to maybe own the outcome, a bit more of a product ownership role, a bit more of a delivery role. So I think you can transfer, get really good experience doing something that's similar. And you can almost act as a Scrum Master, can't you? You can facilitate well, you can unblock, you can coach, you can be a servant leader, you can install good practices. I reckon I worked with a brilliant product owner years ago at Vodafone, and I reckon that he understood Agile well enough to kind of act as a Scrum Master in any role that he moved into. I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to take the best bits and use them as kind of tools in his toolbox, a 2-week sprint cadence, sprint reviews, a retrospective session, daily stand-ups, a prioritized backlog, prioritization methods and techniques, like all that stuff. I reckon he could take that forward and use some of that in a different role. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think the thing that happens a lot is that we get hung up on the role title.
Yeah, I think so.
If we just focus on the skills and the responsibilities of the role, it completely changes that.
Yeah. And now we had a very controversial discussion a couple of years ago, which caused a load of not like backlash, but I think it just got people. There
was a lot of debate. It caused a lot of debate from different sides.
Agile coach versus Scrum Master, the difference in the roles. Yeah. So we took kind of quite a pragmatic approach.
Yeah.
And the light's gone out. That's exciting, wasn't it?
I thought it changed.
Do we want to leave it or do anything with it?
Plug it in. Oh. Actually, it's the one time I could plug it in. But keep that in and I'll...
and then it will ping back up.
So Agile coach versus Scrum Master, we took quite a pragmatic view. People got annoyed because in reality, it means lots of different things depending on the organization. Organizations that are more advanced in their understanding of Agile, organizations that are less advanced, and people take it personally because it's it represents someone's values, someone's livelihood. But you're right, it's almost like too much weight placed on the role title. Yeah. Perhaps. The flip side though, I mentioned earlier, is like the setup. A lot of Scrum Masters have been given a hospital pass. Yeah. If you are if you are given a Scrum Master role, but it's actually not a Scrum Master role, maybe you're not given, a fully committed team to coach. Maybe you haven't got a product owner that's dedicated. Maybe you've been given, I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then, that's really tricky. And equally, if you're given like an agile delivery manager type role and it's a bit of a blend and you're expected to do, maybe own deliverables and you don't have the team to deliver them, and then effectively it's just a project manager role that's glamorized.
Yeah.
That's tricky as well.
Yeah. So taking it back to what advice would we give people, for me, it's looking at the role expectations, not just the title. So don't search by maybe Scrum Master. Think about what sits within that. What are you expected to do? What experience are you expected to have? And almost map out the experience and what you can do and what you're good at and all those different things. Because I think Scrum Masters and Agile coaches have such diverse set of skill sets, like huge set of skill set. And that's not often realised. So I think focusing on that and going, well, what could this be elsewhere?
Yeah.
For me is critical.
Yeah.
And like you say, just because your title may be Agile Delivery Manager, it doesn't mean you don't do some of the things Scrum Masters do.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it's a completely different role. It's just thinking more widely about what it means in practice now. I'm going to give you one last question.
Oh, go on then.
No, you're going to ask me. Ask me one question.
Oh.
Pick wisely.
What, an agile related question?
I feel like well, whatever you want, really. You got one last question. Pick your
when
favourite.
was the last time that you changed your mind about something significant to do with Agile?
I actually don't remember.
I like that question.
I like that question, but I can't give you an answer. I don't know. I don't often talk about Agile very much.
Yeah.
Like at all. Like it's not a topic that we discuss a lot. We talk about business agility more, but I don't talk about Agile and Agile framework. This is probably the most I've spent thinking about Agile frameworks for about 2 years.
Yeah. What about, so let me phrase it. When was the last time you changed your mind about something significant to do with human performance in the workplace?
Oh my God. I don't know. You could have given me a heads up on this. I actually don't know.
Great discussion.
This is a great discussion.
See you all next week.
I tell you what, this is probably a bit more of an open reflection of me.
Yeah.
So I came back from maternity leave into the world of work 6 months ago. Human performance. Like I've always been a career person. I always thought I'll jump straight back in. It will be super easy to get back to it. I've always been, like always performed well in my roles, found it easy to adapt. That time off had more of an impact than I realised. And I don't think that we account for that in the human performance perspective enough and the impact that has. That's probably not what you expected me to say, was it?
No, I mean, but yeah, I guess you're changing your mind, aren't you, about...
Yeah.
I mean, so explain that. Is that to do with becoming a mother? Is that to do with maternity leave? Is that to do with taking extended time off?
I think it's probably more extended time off. Going from taking that much time off and spending all your days focused on your little person in your life to then coming back and having all these other priorities is tough. But also you're having to rewire your brain to go, oh, I need to go back into business mode. I've spent 12 months talking baby language. And you're like, oh, so how do I talk as a business professional again? Like, that's a big shift. And I always thought that I thought that wasn't a thing. Like, I naively thought it wasn't a thing. I was like, yeah, it'd be fine. I'll jump straight back in. No problem at all. I can juggle everything. And reality is you can't. And I think the other thing that surprised me was a lot changes in 12 months. And I don't think historically it has. We've spent a lot of time talking about AI as the fourth industrial revolution and how that means that the world of work is changing so quickly now. I think coming back after an extended break means that the organisation you left is not the same anymore.
Yeah.
And getting back up to speed is tough.
Yeah.
So I think there's this, and I guess linking this back to Agile the frameworks are quite descriptive in how we should work. And obviously we have a difference of opinion around working in the office versus working at home and the value that can bring. I think what we're seeing now is organizations trying to balance what individuals need for their own human performance, if you like, versus what the organization needs. And that's a shift that we're now going towards. So it's kind of adapting to the individual at hand and what they need to perform at their absolute best. Yeah,
that's interesting. I think there's an interesting generational shift as well, in that older generations have more longevity in a role. Younger generations are a bit more like, I don't need you, you need me. So I think we'll see people voting with their feet. Because I actually believe that as an employer, you absolutely have the right to say, if you want to work for us and you want us to pay you, then you have to follow our rules. Follow our terms. If we say we want you to be in 5 days a week, that's it. I think as an employee, like, don't get upset about it. Don't whinge and protest, and just quit. Just go somewhere else.
Now, works for you.
Don't get me wrong. Like,
it's not always that.
Not always that simple. No. It's tough. Got mortgages to pay and all the rest of it. So there's got to be a plan. But I think a lot of times the market should dictate some of this stuff. If people want flexibility, they'll go to employers for flexibility. If they can make it work and still be profitable as an organization and deliver outcomes, that will prevail. If actually organizations can't deliver outcomes and make money unless people are in the office, then all the companies with super flexible policies will fail and we'll all be back in the office. Now,
imagine what happens if Starbucks turn around and say everyone has to work from home.
Well, yeah.
That wouldn't work, would it?
No coffee. But I think, there will be a bit of a shift in, the generation coming through. They're less afraid. Like, younger people are less afraid of just moving shorter time frames, a year here, a year there. They won't kick up a fuss too much. They'll just hand their notice in, they'll go somewhere else. So I think that will shift as well. We'll see more of that. We'll see people just voting with their feet more. Which I think is kind of fair. Like, that's,
Yeah, I definitely see your point. Like, I know people that have probably been in the same role for 20 years and moaned about it for 20 years.
And they need a kick.
Like, if you're going to moan about it, you have the choice to do something about it, and you've chosen not to for 20 years. We don't see that as much anymore. And I think, so this has kind of made me think about something else. I don't know about you, but I keep seeing at the moment people moaning on LinkedIn about using AI to generate content. Can people stop really moaning about the fact that people aren't spending time anymore creating their own content?
But I now see it. Like, we're obviously big on AI, right? We're doing it. But you can see when someone's generated AI content and it's lazy.
Well, here's the thing.
Hyphen here, hyphen there.
I mean, that's like an obvious one. But here's the thing. AI is coming whether people like it or not. Now, those people who are sitting there criticizing it and refusing to use it will get left behind. End of. Because it's going to come. So you've got a choice now whether you can continue moaning about it. Reality is it won't change. Reality is it's going to come and you're going to get left behind. So yes, I think people need to be a little bit less lazy with it. So like, use AI by all means, because it does level the playing field for people who maybe historically have struggled to write things. So someone with dyslexia may struggle to write a really engaging post. Someone who's, a content creator and has spent years going through, degrees or learning to be able to be a good content creator. It does level the playing field. Absolutely. I think we need to not be lazy with it, but also by continuing to moan about what's happening and the change that's coming, it's just going to leave you behind. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's true.
Choose to embrace it.
Yeah.
And if not, that's fine. But find your unique position so that you don't, end up out of a job or whatever it is.
Yeah. I saw a really interesting thing the other day about this kind of, I can't remember, it was like U-shaped thing, but what we're going to see is this kind of divide where everything in the middle is removed by AI. So if you think about content, for example, like social content, so you'll either have really high-end, ultra high definition produced content that AI helps by, you can render graphic design quicker, you can, get faster. What is it when in movies when they special
CGI?
Effects CGI,
Okay.
So they're talking about CGI will just become less expensive, it'll be quicker, it'll be more cost effective with AI, but then at the other end of the spectrum, what it won't do is the really authentic, raw, kind of human, messy type content. everything in the middle is kind of going to go, because, you know, like the copy that you can create, the video content you can create, the, you know, everything in the middle will kind of be dealt with. But you'll have at one end of the spectrum, you'll have this human based content that you just can't replicate the mistakes in an authentic, funny way with.
Yeah.
So I think that's I like that really made me think of
Yeah.
like with the social content, the social copy. And I saw, you know, some social you know, some influencers kind of talk about it. You need to go back to like almost messy, raw, authentic content. And on LinkedIn particularly, it can feel quite hard to like have typos and not be grammatically correct. And but actually that's what people are going to engage with.
Yeah.
It will be copy that is maybe a bit messy, maybe not grammatically correct, but it feels authentic, it feels natural. Anything that's kind of in the middle, people just won't engage with it because it won't be that authentic.
Yeah. So we've scooted around a little bit. We started talking about the state of Agile in 2025.
Yeah.
We moved to like human performance.
Yeah.
We've moved on to a little bit of Agile there.
Yeah.
What's your final reflections for everything we spoke about?
So,
I mean, feel free to even just share final reflection about Jaffa Cakes if you want to. Should we start the debate of is it a cake or a biscuit?
Oh, no. But I was very fearful of the chomping into the microphone.
Yeah, I know. So I'm glad I didn't get any chocolate
Trying
anywhere.
to eat off camera.
This is where I see afterwards I've got like chocolate on my face or something.
So the biggest thing that I've thought about in the last couple of years with Agile is I think there's a couple of absolutely fundamental things that you need to have a good team. Call it an Agile team, but a good team.
Yep.
You need to have some cross-functionality or the right skill sets in order to deliver the work. So that's number one. Number two is it's got to be their primary sole focus mission. That's got to be the thing that they wake up and think about every day. Number two. And then for the product owner or the leader, you know, whatever you want to call them, we spoke about the role titles, don't really care too much. But for the leader of that team, they have to live and breathe the product. It's got to be like they're the mini CEO of their product. They've got to live and breathe it. It's got to be their sole focus. It's got to be their mission. They've got to be the voice of the customer. They've got to be like just, you know, they're brushing their teeth and they've got their product strategy on the mirror. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, those three things, cross-functional team with all the required roles and, you know, and skills to get the job done, fully allocated, fully committed, fully focused, and then product owner kind of / leader who's going to guide them and get it done. So often with our clients, consulting clients, you know, you hear about teams, we're still just not getting that right in corporates, in, you know, large organizations.
Yeah.
We have functional based org structures where all of one skill sit and report into one area, all of another skill sit and report into another area.
Yeah.
You know, you're a marketing specialist, you report to a marketing senior manager who reports into head of marketing.
Yeah.
We so often split people across 10 different projects.
Yeah.
You know, 5 to 10 different projects. You know, I'm 20% allocated here, 20% allocated there. And we so often have product owners or, you know, product managers or whatever, you know, what we call them. And they're not given decision rights. They're not given autonomy.
Yeah.
They're perhaps not fully allocated or fully dedicated in terms of their time and capacity. And then we wonder why stuff doesn't get done and stuff doesn't happen quickly. And I was thinking about it the other day. It's like, if you're, because I saw this actually in real life, but if you're 20% allocated to a team and then you're allocated to another team, you know, 20%, realistically, that's going to allow you to turn up to some of the calls.
Yeah,
you know, turn up to the meeting.
it.
You're not going to deliver any work.
No.
You know, so, and then you get to the end of a year and all these projects are delayed and behind and you think, well, everyone's just spent time catching up on what they've missed. They're not actually doing any work.
Yeah.
By contrast, if you think about like, so startups, you know, generally pretty productive. You know, not every startup succeeds, but you think about small companies that are growing, you know, the kind of the unicorns, whatever. You know, it's naturally a cross-functional team. They've got a very clear mission and vision, very clear focus, otherwise they don't survive. They've got very clear leadership.
Yeah.
They're all probably living and breathing that every day. I listened to the podcast recently with, I think it's Reid Hoffman, one of the LinkedIn founders, and the way he spoke about it was like, wow, you know, these guys just lived and breathed LinkedIn in the early day, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's how successful companies operate. Companies get really big and they kind of forget it, but they manage to somehow, you know, struggle on and survive because they've got the scale and they've got to that point where they can afford to be. But it blows my mind how many organizations will still go, well, we'll have functional hierarchies because that makes sense, and then people get their kind of little fiefdoms and everything else, and we'll still spread people across 5 to 10 projects, because surely, if one person is focusing on 10 things, then that's really productive.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've got a high performer who's like a product owner or a
You can definitely
senior manager.
be a product owner for 3 different
products. Oh, I can definitely spread them across 3 different products, and and by the way, they can all work remote from different parts of the world, so they're only going to cross over like 1 hour at a time zone. And do you know what I mean? And that blows my mind that's still the case. So the thing that I'm thinking about a lot is, I think there's a leadership thing here. 100%. Only a leader can step in and say, right, you're going to have, if this really matters, if this outcome matters, then we're going to put a team, cross-functional team behind it. We're going to make it their sole focus. If we really know that this is important, then we can back ourselves to put the right resources into it so that it's the focus. Have I got a leader? Can I do the same for them? If I really back them, if I really trust them, can I put them full time on this thing?
Yeah.
And then can I support them and give them the space so that they can move through that and achieve an outcome?
Yeah.
Whenever, it always worries me when you see the kind of, we'll just spread people around and 10% here and 10% there, and we'll keep a function. That for me just says you're not that sure on what really matters. Committed. Yeah, not committed.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, you speak to people who are in that situation. They're not particularly enjoying it. They're stressed. They're burnt out. They're context switching.
Yeah.
Not getting anything done. So if we go back to the state of Agile in 2025, and you said it's still happening.
Yeah.
What did you say? What was the word you used? Like under the radar?
It's underground.
Underground, yeah.
But we still haven't dealt with the fundamental issues. So for me, like if I think about what you've just said and I summarize it to try and kind of bring it back, we need to forget Agile and think about what are the key things that give organizations agility and to deliver. And you said it's those 3 things. The right skill set to deliver. So it's skill sets across people.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean they have to be cross-functional across a whole organization. It's do they have the right skills within a team to deliver what they're trying to deliver? Do they have a clear purpose and dedicated team? So are those people dedicated the majority of their time to deliver? And do they have a leader that is championing it? That's it. Yeah. Really simply, those are the 3 things we need to see.
And if you think about the state of Agile, those things are all Agile principles.
Yeah.
So doing a nice full circle, I think Agile is more prominent than ever.
Absolutely.
Any startup that's going to thrive.
We just still haven't got it right.
Yeah, there's just, for whatever reason, for a load of different reasons, the term has become a little bit dirty. But all those things that most people would agree are a real high-performing team.
Yeah.
A high-performing team ticks all those boxes.
Yeah.
That's just an Agile team.
Yeah.
Or an Agile team is just trying to capture a high-performing team.
Absolutely.
So I think it's more important now than ever.
Absolutely.
What are your final thoughts? More Jaffa Cakes?
Yeah, always more Jaffa Cakes. For me, it's what you've said. I think you've summarized it really nicely. But for me, it's common sense.
Yeah.
Like, let's stop overcomplicating it. Let's stop putting these really complicated frameworks and views and all this stuff. Like, it's really simple. Like what you've just said, those 3 things, really simple. Don't overcomplicate it and use your common sense.
Cool. What should we talk about next time?
Oh,
what do you want to
I'm not going to lie. It's almost 4:30. My brain stopped working a long time ago, so I feel like I've been waffling away. Obviously, I didn't have enough sugar from the Jaffa Cakes. Next time, I don't know. I think we tend to think about these topics in the moment, on the day, based on what we read, what we see, what's relevant at the time. So I think it depends when we next record.
Fine.
Leave it open. Feel free to suggest anything you want to hear us talk about.
Cool.
Wrap us up.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you next time.